Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating breakdown of power. We're going to look at a ruler's aggressive, manufactured myth-making and contrast that against the incredibly harsh reality of his crumbling mind. We are, of course, talking about King Minos. He's often remembered as this grand, imposing legend, but as we're going to see, his reality was actually far more dangerously unhinged. So let's jump right into this foundational idea from the source material. Controlling the narrative is literally the ultimate weapon. Throughout this explainer, we're going to see how history isn't always written by the victors. A lot of the time, it's forged by the absolute most paranoid people in the room, guys who are desperately trying to hide the rotting truth behind grand illusions. Section 1. Statues, Poets, and Propaganda. It's funny. King Minos' spiral into tyranny doesn't actually begin with massive armies marching across borders. It starts with a desperate, deeply paranoid campaign to just rewrite history in real time. Because he realizes that controlling the present, that's not enough. He has to control exactly how he's remembered. To pull this off, Minos forces this completely fabricated divine narrative onto his kingdom. He demands to be recognized as the literal son of Zeus. He starts tearing out temple statues and replacing them with images of himself, and he orders the royal poets to write exclusively about his own glory. He even corners the high priestess, Hagatha, forcing her to publicly acknowledge his divinity, telling her that the people are fortunate to worship a god who is more present. But here is where it gets really interesting. The stark contrast between his claimed divine benevolence and his deeply paranoid, lethal reality. While he's out there demanding the Senate and the temples treat him as a living god, behind closed doors, he is terrified of whispers about alternative heirs, like when rumors surface about his older half-brother. Minos doesn't act with, divine grace. He orchestrates a ruthless murder and just stages it as a tragic accident in the Royal Alchemy Laboratory. Section 2. The Labyrinth's absurd traps. As his vanity metastasizes into full-blown paranoia, Minos literally turns his kingdom into a machine of wildly absurd punishments. The Labyrinth, which was originally built to be this grand architectural marvel, completely shifts into the ultimate tool for silencing anyone who even slightly threatens his fragile ego. The timeline of how this escalates is just wild. It builds from standard political maneuvering into a truly terrifying descent into madness. Year 1, he replaces his former loyal guards. Year 2, he elevates just 12 elite guards to surround him at all times. By year 3, he's actively installing hidden poison traps in his own palace corridors. And then we hit year 4, bringing the Moonsday Decree, a totally unhinged plan to execute all citizens born on a Monday, simply because he decides they are inherently disloyal. And the people he sentences to the Labyrinth? It's an incredible volume of increasingly petty offenses, all just to manufacture a climate of total fear. Like Lena, a young servant girl. She's sentenced to the beast because she dropped a tray and interrupted his story at a dinner party. Imagine living in a society where fainting during a public event, whispering about heirs, or literally just the day of the week you were born on is an immediate death sentence. But the brilliant irony here is what's actually happening in the Labyrinth. Minos firmly believes his trapped subjects are being brutally eaten by a savage Minotaur, which he thinks proves his terrifying divine power. But the reality? The Minotaur is just an actor named Wally. Wally made a deal to design the maze in exchange for getting to play the monster. So instead of eating people, Wally is secretly saving them. He's ushering them into an underground resistance. Honestly, Wally's biggest problem isn't bloodlust. It's that he's desperately trying to stretch his theatrical prop budget, running out of mannequins packed with sunberry jam to fake these deaths. Section 3. Echoing the petty gods. Minos is absolutely desperate to elevate himself to the status of the Olympian gods, demanding total, unquestioning reverence. But we have to look at who he's actually trying to emulate. This brilliantly illustrates the dark comedy of this universe. Minos idolizes this idea of grand, cosmic authority. But the actual Olympian gods, they are basically a group of incredibly stubborn, petty roommates. While Minos is executing citizens for dropping trays, Zeus and Poseidon are holding on to these massive, centuries-long grudges over a card game they call Plunker. When Poseidon loses his trident in a game, he doesn't respond with divine stoicism. No, he throws a serving dish the size of a fishing boat into a load-bearing wall and gives everyone the silent treatment underwater for 3 weeks. Minos is so lost in his own myth that he can't see the rotting foundation of his kingdom right under his feet. So, what does this total collapse actually look like from, say, 3 paces behind the throne? Let's shift our perspective to someone uniquely positioned to observe the reality beneath all that gold leaf. Section 4, Jorgen watches the collapse. Enter Jorgen. He's the legendary bodyguard, the literal last man standing at the Battle of Theria. And Minos arrogantly refers to him in public as his favorite pet. Jorgen acts as our grounding rod here. He stands perfectly still, just hyper-observant, tracking the exact moments the king's failing mind loses the room completely. When Minos starts making these wildly erratic demands, Jorgen doesn't even look at the king. He looks at the kingdom's most competent men, like Admiral Cassin, and he notes the sour, fierce sweat breaking out on them. Jorgen sees that the institution is failing, and he makes a choice. He is going to be a soldier of the kingdom before the king. And the crucial point Jorgen notes is this number, 12. Those 12 fanatical elite guards Minos surrounds himself with. As his paranoia hits its absolute peak, Minos pushes away the traditional military, the Senate, his advisors, everyone, relying entirely on these 12 guys. It highlights his complete and utter detachment from his people, setting the perfect stage for his downfall. Section 5. A crumbling, hollow kingdom. Because eventually, this all culminates in a forced, fatal trap, where Minos' lies finally collide with reality at full speed. Minos catches wind of the growing rebellion, so he lures the resistance team right into his throne room. He's gloating, expecting this grand, theatrical victory, but it falls apart in seconds. Medusa just removes her hood, instantly petrifying all 12 elite guards. Poof! Stripped of his protection and suddenly facing real mythological creatures, not the fake stories he controlled, Minos panics. He retreats to a hidden chamber and triggers a poison mechanism he designed himself to kill rivals. But because he's frantic, the trap malfunctions. Talk about irony. The king literally dies by his own paranoia. The very machinery he built to protect his fragile ego and eliminate his rivals is exactly what destroys him. The terrifying gap between what Minos forced the world to see and the rotting reality of his rule ultimately took him down. He spent his entire reign trying to brand himself as a god, while painting actually decent creatures as monsters. Yet when it all hit the fan, it was those very monsters, an actor Minotaur, a reclusive Gorgon, and a massive Cyclops, who showed way more humanity and empathy than the institutions trying to manage them. They were the ones who stepped up and saved the crumbling kingdom. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. King Minos showed us exactly how easily absolute power can rewrite the truth into a terrifying manufactured myth. If the so-called monsters in our history books were never actually the true danger, how much of our own history is just a broken myth masking the truth? Thank you for watching, and as always, keep questioning the narrative.